Well, welcome again. Welcome back. Welcome still. We're in a space of echo this morning. I think everybody here knows me. I'm Tom Acklin, Frederick, Maryland. And welcome to all here in the space. Thank you for bringing your beautiful metaphysic. We just came out of a wonderful healing session. And in the space of recovering our what's a great word for unblemished? I am
pristine.
Pristine. I am naive. I am in the space of recovering, right? As we walk through our various scarrings. And let's not even use that disparagingly, right? Our scarrings came from kindergarten, came from our first kiss, came from our first, right? Whatever Messiah you were, it was suggested to you, appear to you in your earliest memory. And it might be a deity, and it might be a guru, and it might be a human, and it might just be an idea. But all of those things that were important, they're still in there. And so we've had some interesting conversations this week already. And one of the beautiful, I think, playgrounds of Peace Week is that the ideologies and the philosophies and the sciences that we think we understand get shaken up so beautifully. Yeah. And we're going to explore that today. So I am quite honored to be with everybody, and my co-host Haseena Patel, Akashic Records reader extraordinaire, and life coach, just brought us out of an hour, along with Bree Dellerson, who's a sound healer, of putting ourselves back in that pristinity. Thank you, Julie. and so the less I speak, the less I scar. So I will do my best to stop talking, but it's an honor to be with you here, Haseena, hosting Julie. And the three of us we've had just a gorgeous walk here the past several months, and realized that we needed at least a weekly touch point. And so we've been promising ourselves to give at least an hour together, the three of us. And that continues to echo. So, Julie Heyman, welcome.
Thank you. Should I just say a few tiny words about myself, since for few?
Say the biggest words you want about yourself. You
Big
can
words.
use tiny words, you can use middle words, you can, we're going to parse the syllables.
Oh, well, I've
today.
always loved the word implosion, but that we'll just put that to the side, because that's just a word I like. I'm sure everyone here today, I've been on a pretty much, at least from my young adulthood, a journey to understanding why we're here, what's the purpose, where am I going, the great questions that can come up for people in any culture and in any time and space. And I would say that I've influenced very much by Vedic and some of the ancient scriptural writings, by Barbara Marx Hubbard and conscious evolution, by the new physics that is just bursting on the scene, by the wisdom of the high Andes and the shaman of the high Andes. So it's a very eclectic but intertwining, and a spine is created where the truths and the immutable truths that don't need culture, that don't need anything other than the resonance that this is speaking truth to you. And that has sort of lined up. And so in these years now, I'm starting to live sort of with a comfort in that enough has been put together that I can really just now not cruise, but I can apply myself. And so I'm grateful for the journey, and I'm happy to speak if it's appropriate about maybe how because I think one of the points for this conversation today was sort of how to deal with these chaotic times and how to find some place to put our feet down, to put our roots down and hold tight while being light.
Roots or rats?
Yeah, right, roots.
Well, I
had to go off video because there was so much noise and the window was open. The wind is blowing so hard. We seem to be getting a storm. And I looked and the trees just swaying in the wind. So it's been funny. That's been a theme in the past hour. And here you are talking about roots.
Well, I picked up, I heard the few minutes from you. And of course, the implication is that if the tree is too entrenched and rigid, it can break, or the guitar string. We've all heard that, too tight or too loose, the way of the Buddha, the moderate way. So can we stay steady and still be flexible and able to hold our vision at this time? So yeah, I'm happy to give a thought or two of how I'm doing it, but let's hear what the conversation wants to be.
I'm just reading what Bridget wrote there, and wind is the center of my Mayan chart. Really cool.
I like the languaging of that, Julie, when you said what the conversation wants to be, because one of the poignant pieces that was presenced earlier, and Bree was describing the bowls as knowing what to say or how to. And similarly, when the trees are blowing and the trees are offering, and you echoed that as well when you were talking. I wrote down the wisdom of the high Andes, and for some reason it feels very important to me to speak of that today. Not that I know anything about the Andes, but that the concept, the idea that we are always being spoken to, and in some sort of symphony that we can't possibly understand.
Absolutely. That was one of the, I was reviewing sort of, in a way, like almost every day you can review your life, all of the chapters, all of the fascinating, like I say, I've had such wonderful exposures to the world wisdom, and then the shamanism was not really my what I would have done for my whole life. I don't like even playing in mud, and it's down and dirty. I mean, shaman, you got to get down in the dirt and spit and rattle and everything. But it was very, very good for me. And one of the many things I learned was that what Tom just said, everything speaks to you. Any animal that crosses your path, any weather thing, and anything there, you're alert, and the alert leads to being in the present, and the present then suddenly opens up so many of the world wisdoms that say that's where to be. It's not just one poet or one teacher or one cultural thing. It really, that's one of the pieces of the spine. So that's always been sort of fun to be alert to what has crossed your path.
And then you get to be the receiver, and you get to be bioavailable to that wisdom that does come, and it changes the whole chemistry of it. You as that soul that is in earth mode, in individualism, taking that and then morphing it almost through who you are and then bringing it evolved to the table.
That's right. And, you know, so many people are sort of fascinated by people who are channels. Medium is a whole other category, but thinking that it's such a rare quality. But in fact, we're being talked to all the time. And you know, our intuitive things, our hints, our impulses, our body maybe gives us a little suggestion. And again, it takes practice, but paying attention, we get so many hints and clues from the mundane, you know, to something absolutely significant and to help us with a choice. And that it becomes almost a game to see how many times you get it and how many times you miss it. And I sort of play with them.
It's a very empowering idea. Now, this is an intellectual idea and it's hard to corporealize, but it's a very comforting idea to think that I have the ability to give myself permission to pay attention to those subtleties.
Oh, yes. Why wouldn't you?
Right. And it's almost like you get to pop open the Holy Grail and you peer in for just a moment and say, oh my, that's probably my greatest gift, is if I can give myself permission in the moment to surrender the current version, so to possibly hear the message, whatever it is from wherever it comes.
Well, and it may even come from you. It may really be your higher intelligence, full self saying, Tom, you know.
Yeah.
So in other words, it might even be it might be running. I mean, this is just coming out now. It could be running all the time. It's not like it's just going to drop in on a thing. It's really maybe always open. Remember we said a few weeks ago about the planetary ceiling, you know, opening up, so or the big telescope, so the telescope can now see the universe. You know, it's keeping that ceiling open.
Yeah, Mother Nature doesn't stop. Physiologic processes don't stop. Emotions don't stop. And that's a great bridge, actually, to the context in which we thought we might gather here today, is navigating the dark times, and so if I can take full personal responsibility, if it's what you pointed to, which is it's all me. That's one of the great themes here this week, is we might look like individuals and we might think we have a personal philosophy, et cetera, but that too is always changing in community. And so much of what Haseena and I talk about is this co-creative energetics, if you will. I like to focus on the bioenergetics because it's safe for me. I can look at the physical. Once we're beyond that, though, we can let go of the physical and get to the other energetics. And so let's use your spine metaphor, actually, to talk about how, if it really is true that I'm all of it, then I'm CNN and I'm MSNBC and I'm President Trump and I'm, and what would I have to be bringing myself, right? In the world of, I'm always scarring myself. And again, not disparagingly, I'm always giving myself permission to step into the imprinting machine, if you will, the stamping machine, right? Whatever I turn on, everybody who's listening here today decided to get stamped by us, and you are us. Yeah. So in that world of I am all of it, speak to the spine metaphor, if you would, in the here. So our title for the day is growing out of the comfort zone, and we don't want to stop. If we stop, we're gone. We're not part of Mother Nature anymore, and we're not part of the metaphysics of life and the universe. Growing out of the comfort zone, the search for serenity in challenging times. And so speak to that a little bit. We all had expressions on our face when I finished the sentence of I am, whatever it is that's confronting to you as the teacher and instructor.
Yeah, well, I just want to say before maybe answering that when you said when I'm finished with the physical, the biophysical, or however you said it, almost like, that's your reference point, that's your context, that's your, what you bounce everything off. But I think then you also said, so I just want to be sure, that especially in being now not in the traditional medicine or current medical paradigm, that all your other aspects speak through your physical, so that your physical is never operating out of context of your everything else, right? Your emotions, your instincts, your all of that. So it's okay. Well, for me in this last couple of years, as things have accelerated, as the polarities have gotten more and more distinct, I mean, right before our eyes, we're seeing it, the polarities in so many areas of the world and in our lives around us. So I'm finding that being not running away from it, I watch some news, I read headlines, I'm aware of what's going on, but disengaging from the noise, disengaging from the argument. Maybe a few generations ago, there were causes to be passionate about and to take sides about. Maybe it's never been, maybe it's never really been the way, but that's how it's been. But in these times, it's almost like suggesting to us that no matter what side, even if it seems like this is just and this is unjust and so forth, as long as it's causing animosity and argument, violence, and anger, then if we add to that in any way, we are just participating in keeping it going. So for me, it's not engaging. That doesn't mean I can't observe with compassion. I can't pray. I can't pray without a demand, pray for the benefit of, for the upliftment of, for the outcome that benefits the most. Very, very, very careful not to put a demand on it. But for me, it's really starting to see that this play is going down, and both sides, all polarities, are going to at some point start to dissolve or implode, self-implode, and so that a new, like your tree root, your banyan tree, that there will be some shoots that are going to come up that are neither that one side or neither that side, and that are what many of us are holding for the new story. And that's where we want to put our attention and the nourishment. And if we have to wait a while to let the other stuff desist, that's all right. Timing is crucial. And so it may be that we have to hold and keep doing things like this and hold the highest and find the tribe, like you've suggested at other times. Find resonant people and find courage and strength in the resonance. And does that make sense?
Yeah. So here's something to put into that. Like, what if the polarity is not polarity? What if we can see it as, like, when the earth when the earth spins on its axis and it goes through the darkness and the light and the darkness and the light. And maybe that's just the getting to the next level, and there isn't the this or the that, but it's the coming together. And everyone who's on this call participating, just feel that, like, how do you feel? Do you feel it's polarity? Do you feel something else? And we all have different feelings at different times, and they may just change, you know, from this time to the next time. But it's a very interesting thing if we just look at, take ourselves out of it, look at ourselves from the perspective of observer, and just see it. What do we see then? How do we see this?
Right. No, that's brilliant. You actually really, I mean, yes, what I was talking about was here in this third dimension, our everyday experience, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, etc., the emotions it can cause, and you know, the push and pull. But absolutely, you just took it up and out to the place of observation, and the polarities become the play of consciousness, you know, the dance of yin yang, light, dark, you know, that maybe always exists, the two sides of the coin. There are a million ways to say it. And of course, what do the great beings suggest? They suggest to see them all as part of a great dance, you know, a great evolutionary dance, and to then not engage, but to have compassion, you know. So thank you for taking us out.
I see Susan says, I have a great quote from the Elohim to share. Susan, would you like to share it?
Yes, I hope there's not feedback or just mute. Here, hang on. I have to read it because it's short. Okay. You are both eternal and mortal. You are both non-dual and dual. You are both individualized and all of existence. You are both the perfect marriage between chaos and order. And that came after a transmission on chaos and order. And it was basically about the construction of creation in the physical realm and the deconstruction of the physical realm back into matter, back into chaos, that it's a cycle, and both creation, birth, and both destruction, death. From the observer's view, it's not like birth is positive and death is negative. It's all part of the cycle in the material realm, that the energy comes into matter, into molecules, comes into form for so long. And then at some point it goes and deconstructs back into atoms, and then back into the chaos of the atoms, and then back into the energy. And that what we're seeing now is rapid deconstruction and reconstruction, deconstruction and creation happening. And if we can just see it as part of the process and know that we're infinite and immortal and mortal in our bodies, it might make it easier to navigate. Thank you. I'm complete.
Perfect. Thank you. There it is.
If we can take on the idea that that duality is a unity, and one example of that would simply be the cellular structure and what we think of as material, right, is nature's proper distillation of whatever the menu of frequencies that thing is bathing in is. So you put yourself in a particular frequency, you're going to have a particular structure, right? And a water molecule might be H2O in one frequency, and it might be something else in another frequency, and it is. And the chemist will tell you that it's the same, but it's not interactive in the same way. In one frequency, it decides to be, a really ticked off thunderstorm, and in another frequency, it decides to be an Emoto water crystal. And even and then there are subtleties inside those other fingerprints as well. How do I carry this novel message? The re-engagement, the being with the inflammatory. And again, in physiologic cycles, it is, how do we attend to the inflammation? How do we tend to that thing that looks like it's a disruption in the moment? And if we don't, then it becomes a scar, or it becomes a chronic, unattended interruption. And if we attend to it and learn from it, I would suggest that there's an uptick in our ability, our hunger, even not just our ability to take responsibility and engage, but our hunger for engagement. And it's that little light that goes on that says, hey, I do want more of that. Wow, I do want more of that feeling. I want more of that connection. I want more of that message. And then access to the divine fingerprint. That responsibility, again, we can bring into social interactions, and in the freeing of ourselves from our previous ideologies. That's our opening idea of naivete and pristinity. That's the pristine nature. And the egotistic Tom wants to jump up and down and say, I worked so hard on this. I like this guy. I want this. I want everybody to understand this. But that's a that's a disrespect, really, of the self, the real me, who does want to be destroyed, right? In the natural cycle of the ever becoming. So there's a dance. We've spoken about that, and then put that in, how do you turn on MSNBC, or how do you walk through the airport and accidentally hear, what's going on, and bring sacred love and responsibility for transformation to it.
Well, I think, with the talk about the atoms and everything, and that they're constantly, the source and the resource is always available, that if we can be comfortable with the fact that everything is changeable, is dynamic, is in process, is in creation and destruction within our own bodies. And you as a doctor, you know this better than any of us, how many cells, die and are born, and rejuvenation and things. So we're never really the same from top to bottom, from inside out, from, probably from day to day, much less from year to year. So
Moment to moment.
Right, good. So if we could be comfortable with this, it's a tremendously freeing concept, and a tremendously terrifying concept, because then you say, okay, here I am. I'm going to just go with it. And then right away you go, well, except don't do that and don't do that. The real trust in the fact that there's benevolence and not malevolence around us. You get, it's so many things, but to be aware that anything that we hold on to too tight, is either in third dimension, it's not going to last forever. If it's our body, it's not going to last forever. What lasts forever? Then we have to start considering what maybe is more eternal than us.
Mm.
Our ground bodies. Yeah.
Well, when you were just talking about that, what came to me is in our existence, which our existence is our energy, and our energy is always and ever, because energy is not created or destroyed. It just transforms from one form to another. So we, at each point of transformation, or each point of that energy existence, no matter where it is, we give in a different way. So what changes is how we give. In our bodies, we may give like, we're right here, we're giving of ourselves, just our ideas, and our all of us in this conversation, and who's in this convergence room, we're giving of ourselves, and then we move on. And even when the cells die, they give themselves in a different way. They're just giving as nourishment. They're not giving as a result of the nourishment. When they die, they're giving themselves as nourishment. And it's like that in all of life. So just I've never looked at that before, just the whole cycle, the whole evolving as a process of giving differently.
It's another way to be with the darkness, when I can forgive myself in a particular interaction. I can forgive myself for my theory, right? My bias or my temperament. And it doesn't, again, doesn't mean there's anything wrong in the moment for my temperament. But if I really can forgive myself for who I was yesterday, even though I don't think I did anything to hurt anybody, then I have a bit of a better chance of interacting today and digesting, right? And I was thinking, Julie, I want to point this to you because you said pray for earlier, and that's in most traditions, in most families and whatnot, that's it's a benevolent idea. I feel generous if I'm praying for. And my understanding from my religious point of view is that the praying for is still footed in a structured, in a construct that is rigid. It might not be as rigid as the spine that has been fixed, but it's still a known quantity. And freeing myself of that known quantity is the praying with. And so it forgives the current understanding, even though I don't know what my judgments of myself are, right? And I transform the praying for to the praying with. And as much as I think I'm helping that guy over there, guess who wins, right? He's going to teach me something. So talk about that for a minute.
Right. Well, okay, boy, I have to I love talking to Tom. It's like, language is very important to me, and for years and years and years, and I learned this actually with working with another woman. The words we use are so important, and I would invite that even going beyond forgiving yourself, try just liking yourself. Forgive has some shame, has some smaller than, has some did something wrong. Just like you said, I might not have done anything wrong. Who's measuring, whose template, whose rules. Just wake up and say, man, I like you. Yeah, you're a good guy. Yeah, you're on the trip. You're doing good stuff. So
We're on the trip, all right.
we're on the trip, and what a ride it is. This is extraordinary. It's so anyhow, play with that a little bit. But what was the second part of your what was the second part? I had to.
It was delivered in quantum packets.
Brain.
There's no such thing as second part.
Well, it was two parts. There was something you said, speak to that.
I think it was about praying.
Oh, praying. Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I got something when you're done too to add to that. So yeah, it was,
P-R-A-Y.
praying,
P-R-A-Y.
praying, asking for, praying already received.
Right,
I don't know,
right.
is how I look at it.
Right.
Gratitude or prayer, begging or being grateful for what already is, right?
Well,
Then that's how it manifests. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna mute.
well, Tom was maybe framing it at first that if it's within the rigid structure of a religious template, then you're really confined and defined and all of that. But earlier on I said I'm working with conscious evolution, with the noosphere, with the thinking layer of Earth, with the connectivity with the infinite grid, Indra's net, the grid where everything is really connected to everything. There's no holes anywhere, including black holes are not empty. So that if we have a thought of compassion or of kindness or anything of a higher energetic, Haseena was talking of energy, that goes out into the field. And so I would suggest that a non-selfish, open-ended, from genuine heart, on behalf of the well-being, without, like I said, a required result, is a worthwhile effort. And it doesn't have to go through an intermediary of a saint or of a deity or of a structure. It is a genuine energetic donation to the field. And that's really what, when I talk to people, it's like, we're on the light team, we just keep plying the field as best we can, hold space, do our best. We get down, try to work it out so that we're not, we go through stuff every day too. It isn't like, we're all not challenged, but to consider that we are affecting the field with everything we do and say and think. So
Unless we choose retreat, unless we choose isolation, right? And unless we
stop
choose,
thinking, Tom. You can't stop thinking. You can go under a rock right now for the next 20 years and you're still going to affect the field.
love it. I love it. Go ahead.
No, say what you're saying and then we'll let
I don't
Susan speak.
I don't know how to say it. Maybe remind me after. So Susan's going to actually instruct me on what I think I'm about to say about mycelial transformation and detoxification. And since we're talking Peace Week, we're talking the cleansing, but nothing's wasted in Mother Nature. And so I'm going to. So Susan, you're gonna say what you thought you were gonna say, and then I'll know how to language it.
Here, well, you can retreat, but we're always in the field. We can choose to tap into the field, or we can hide out and be like, oh, I'm not part of the field, but we are, we are. So one teaching I had was 3 circles, 3 concentric circles. Everyone's seen it. Middle, center, middle, outer. Okay. The center one is your hoop. How is your hoop intact? Usually our hoops aren't. The middle one is your tribe or family, which everyone hopefully has at least one person that can have your back if you need it, just one, okay? So if your hoop's not intact, the tribe's intact and holding you, okay? Even if it's one person. And then the outer hoop is creator or source, or let's just call it the field now, okay? It's indigenous teaching. I'm gonna call it the field. That hoop is only broken if you turn your back on it, okay? So that's the field. And the goal is at any one time to, if you have all your hoops intact for any extended period of time, you probably will go back to the energy in a good way, okay? And then like the praying thing, it changes your whole perspective. It's hard to do. We have to focus on what we want as opposed to what we don't want. So that is the MBC, the ends, whatever. I don't even, I can barely tap into that anymore, okay? Because they're buying you into fear to control. It's to control us, because God forbid we all step into our power and know that we're connected to the field all the time, and we're going to create peace and it doesn't matter, you know? So focus on what you want, and then like say, thank you, source, for allowing me to be in the field with all these amazing beings today. I'm not asking for anything. There's no scarcity. If I'm like, please let me be around good people today, or, you know, then I'm buying into fear and lack that I don't already have it. And that is the shift in perspective. It's all there. All the abundance is there. All the love is there. And what is eternal, I believe, is, as Haseena said, is our light, our peace, and our love. That is how the energy from the unseen creates itself into matter and atoms. And it really only takes just a little shift in perspective to know that we're swimming in the sea of abundance and love, and tap into that. And I'm not saying be Pollyanna, everything else goes away. But when it comes down to the deconstruction and reconstruction, every time those old lower vibrational frequencies, self-blame, hate, anger, whatever, lack of self-love, come up, they can go down and get recycled and come back up as a higher frequency. And then there'll be those pockets of consciousness where the energy that is arising into the material form is only of those higher light, love, peace, compassion frequencies.
Yeah.
There, I'm complete.
I think that's where we are as a species too, right now. And so many brilliant people and spirited people this week, every week. But, you know, one of the things we're celebrating here this week is that sort of consciousness and participation.
Right.
And could you give a quick example? Well, so Julie asked, why don't you talk? But I want to come back to Susan.
Okay.
Think about this while Julie's talking. I'd like you to give an example of when you said, unless you turn your back on it, right? The greater, and what would be a good example in the current social narrative of people turning their back on and therefore disengaging, if that's what you were talking about.
Can I just answer it right now? Because it's here, I might
Yes.
forget, because it doesn't come through me really.
She's channeling.
It's the buying into the fear, okay? When you buy into the fear, you are turning, I'm not saying you, I know I have to not say that. When a person that's from Wisconsin growing up,
It's all you.
when a
It's all you.
person buys
It's all
into
you.
fear
You with it. It's all you.
and separation, okay, when they buy into that, they're buying into the fear and separation. They've just disconnected themselves. They've turned their back on creator. They've turned their back on the field.
Yeah.
The field does not break.
Right.
That is
right.
our own broken hoop there. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, because I was going to, you know, I love everything you say, Susan, you know, right on. And I know that, you know, that the field is not going to break, but we can turn it back. One thing that I do in this time of chaos, because I so love the concept of the field, the cosmic grid. Now, again, with physics and everything making it now, the ancients called it the ocean of consciousness. 4,000 years ago, they called it the ocean of consciousness. They already somehow got the visual and the understanding that it's a flowing, moving sea of particles or energy, whatever. So it took all these years, and physicists are now, trying to come back and prove that it's an ocean of consciousness. But what I do is I unabashedly speak to the field. I have no shyness of speaking out loud in my apartment to all those assembled. I'm not a seer, I don't see, but I trust and know the presence of the field and its many expressions. And I sometimes simply thank all the light workers, all the peacemakers, all the earth keepers, all the healers who are working with the new modalities, all of the new children and the new wired beings that have been getting born on this planet more and more and more. I sometimes call out places that might be power spots, Mount Shasta and Sedona, and Romania has amazing things. In other words, I'm being a field worker by connecting and speaking and thanking and acknowledging this whole group of those with whom I'm resonant. And I believe it's in the millions, and to just keep making the field a recognized. And, that's maybe my little, I don't go out on the street anymore with placards, once in a while I sign a petition, but I'm basically working the field from the comfort of my living room.
I like that. I don't need to go out with placards, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I feel the same. I used to call myself a spiritual activist. I remember a few years ago, a friend had said to me, this was when our previous president, people were marching for good reason, because he needed to step down. But she told me, she said, why aren't you doing this? This is a really good, it's a cause. You're South African. And I was traveling back from the United States. So the day I arrived, it was, they were at the airport, and I saw all these people, getting ready to march. And I was asking them, and one guy said to me, oh, are you part of this? And I said, no, I wish I was. And it's very interesting, but I began to see I don't need to be on the street with a placard, because I don't need to get swallowed by the temperature and the tone of the wholeness of that particular collective. And what I can bring to the field is that is just what I have to offer. And we're getting to a point where doing something physically is so, maybe we were always at the point, but it's so negligible compared to energetically shifting things so that it looks different for the collective, and we all get to contribute to that, just contribute to the shifting. And sometimes contributing that is the growing out of the comfort zone, because you're like, but I want to, your ego feels a particular way that is so unjust, that's so unfair, this is happening. And then you pull yourself out and you say, well, no, that's how it is. What do I get to do? What do I want? And how can I create it? And it's a shift.
Right, exactly. And if we, I feel like we're all of the same mind, or at least in the same ballpark here, that if in fact we're in a transitional time now, who's going to argue that we're not in an amazingly transitional time, visual, seen, unseen, it's happening now, it's happening. And if we, without fear or without whatever, accept that the construct of third dimensional, that sure, what we maybe were born into, but we're in a transition now energetically, and a lot of the third dimensional templates, institutions, et cetera, are going to implode, and rightly so, and that we're going to be coming into this new story. So put our energy, whatever we have, that we haven't used up all day, just, taking care of our needs, put it, like what you're saying, Haseena, just put it to good visioning, good thought, good prayer, the kind of prayer or thanking or whatever, and just accept that what we were born into now is going to be coming to an end. We may live to see it, those of us on the call. It may come after our particular lifetimes, but I think we're definitely in a changing dimensional field situation on this planet. Is that too far out there?
Meeting time.
It's wonderfully far out there. And I think very quickly, the contagion of the transformation will bring almost everybody very far out there. It's a good opportunity to say that I would guess that almost everybody who's watching this and participating in this week is also quite far out there. I wonder what the rudimentary, if folks are stumbling in here, and God bless you for lasting this long, because when I heard people talking like this 20 years ago, I was gone quick. And if you're here against your instinct, I bless you, and I honor you, and I suggest that whatever you might have received, and by the way, you also contributed, whoever you are, it's in there, and it's giving space to listen closely. But all that said, what would you say to this person? What would you say to this person who says there's no way I'll ever be there? Because if I could have the 20 years ago version of me could hear this guy talk, I would have myself committed. I've said that many times before. What's the first step for people? For folks who know that they are just embroiled and addicted to the chaos, addicted to the trouble, addicted to the can't keep myself from turning on the TV. What's the first step?
Okay.
What did Bridget? What?
Okay, whoever wants to go, I can go whenever. Or not go. I'm going to mute.
Bridget, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you all so much for the richness of this conversation. My heart is with you all. I know for me, that step is becoming increasingly clear to sit with myself and source energy. That the healing comes now at depth as I learn to reparent myself and restructure what had been thrown out of alignment through a lot of different things and a lot of conditioning and conditions. So I start with sitting or walking in nature or anything that, or playing an instrument or singing a song that I like, something connective, something that has a feel good connection. For those of us that don't have soft mothering, compassionate experiences, it's hard to know how to do that. For those of us who have been through extreme trauma, it's hard to know what compassion feels like inside. So for me, that is my first step. I hope that can help.
Oh, it's lovely.
Beautiful.
And just spinning off Bridget, or spiraling. Sorry, my dog takes full opportunity in the Zoom room to eat the bird seed and everything. He knows I won't say anything to him about it, but I got him.
What
Oh,
was
now he's
the
trying to knock
exclamation?
over my table. Anyway,
What was the exclamation you offered him? Hoovered up?
Pooba, his name's Pooba.
Oh, his name's Pooba. Okay, I thought maybe we could.
No, he's
co-opt
part
that
of the
as a
field, but
social
see, he's
narrative
taking
disruption.
the opportunity because he knows we're whatever, that I'm probably not going to stop him from eating the bird seed while we're in the Zoom room, but I don't want him eating the bird seed. So that was that. But yeah, it's like about the self-love and the first step, like getting into presence. Years ago, maybe I didn't even have this frequency on my radio. Somewhere down the line, I got a new radio with higher bandwidths and possibly lower bandwidths. Okay, so I don't know if you could help people. First step, you got to get a new radio. Like, you need to be reformatted and you need to buy a new radio that has these frequency bands on it that you can actually pick it up. But I feel another way people can be assisted is if you show them love and compassion, if you just tell your story. Don't tell somebody what to do, tell your story, empower them. It's like if you can let them get on your radio for a little bit, okay, and listen to the station, the mode of love, and what the ancients, they did. We all humans used to know the truth that we're connected. And I guess that's part of this earth school, is to come down and learn separation and fear so we can remember what we really are. Okay. So, and it's very hard. I think if you can role model, I mean, you can't just tell someone who's in fear out there fighting against something that they need to step in the mode of love, because they'll just yell at you. They'll be like, what do you mean, right? Mode of love, there is no love, right? So that, I don't know how we reach out to people, but we can model. And if one person, if you can be a tuning fork and they feel the love and they feel the connection, now their radio does have the bandwidth, and it can be their choice whether they want to be in it or not. But
Right.
we can help them. So thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
I just want to, one thing you said to just springboard on it, that Tom, at this time, that this is, you said about Earth School and coming down to Earth School, and I really think that this is a place of learning, and the dualities feed into the learning. We can also respect that people are at different places in their evolutionary trajectory. That includes us. And again, that's why getting really, really pulled in to the drama of a lot of things is maybe not the best use of the energy we have, because everyone's learning, even our children. You know, I've had talks with women who, you know, about their own children. They're your children this life, but we don't know, you know, what their whole karmic book is, their whole Akashic record is. You know, we're part of the story now. So it may also be having a little more understanding that people are on their journey. And if you come in contact and you're brought in contact with people, then what Susan said, then you're a model, you're a stability, you know, but it keeps coming down to us, because if we don't have it together, we're not going to have anything more to give than lip service, but people pick things up from the energetic. So it's something to consider that really everybody is on their evolutionary journey right now.
I
That's a
love
little exclamation point for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, everyone, and such a beautiful conversation. I'm just going to stop the recording.
I just have to say this.